Hello and welcome to another episode of In the Loop, the podcast series from LoopNet, where we explore the stories, ideas and people behind the world of commercial real estate. I'm Phil Hazelhurst, and today I'm here in Georgetown in Washington, D.C. at the offices of HOK. HOK is an architecture and design firm, and alongside the work that they do in architecture and design, they're at the forefront of new and innovative thinking around the world of neurodivergence and neurodiversity. And I'm here today to meet with Kay Sargent, their Director of Thought Leadership. And Kay has recently published a book on this topic. It's called Designing Neuro-Inclusive Workplaces. And it goes into lots of depth about this emerging and evolving area, which really impacts on all of us as we experience the workplace. So let's go meet with Kay now, dig into this in some more detail and find out more about what's in the book and in general about what it is that she does in her area of expertise. I'm delighted today to be sitting with Kay Sargent, Director of Thought Leadership at HOK. Kay, it's so nice to meet you.
Really lovely to meet you. Thanks for coming to our office today in Washington, D.C.
Thank you very much for having us. Yeah, it's great to be here. We're here today to talk about a very interesting kind of emerging topic, as far as I'm concerned at least, which is the topic of neurodiversity and inclusion in the office workplace. Yeah. I'm really intrigued to dig into this subject with you. And I think there's probably nobody better to talk to about this subject than you, because you literally wrote the book on this topic. That's correct, isn't it?
We did just write the book on the topic.
Yeah.
After about 8 years of research and really diving into this.
Wow.
We had an opportunity to, and so we did it.
So I'd love to hear more about this book. The title of the book is Designing Neuro-Inclusive Workplaces.
Yeah.
Tell me more about it.
Well, first of all, I should probably start by saying that we realize in hindsight that's probably a horrible title. The first thing you have to do is say, what's the title going to be? Because they start promoting that long before you've even got it together. It started with a simple question. We had a client that just kind of said, how do you design some space for someone that's ADHD? And we wanted to have a better answer. So we really started to dig into it. We found a drought, and we focused primarily on the workplace. But very quickly, we realized that as people, surprise, surprise, we go to a lot of different spaces. We go to airports, we go to sporting arenas, we go to hospitals and healthcare. And so all the spaces that we are designing, we need to make them as inclusive as possible. And I'm really fortunate to work for a firm that designs all those kinds of spaces. So all of our teams have really dug into this, and it's really impacted every sector.
Incredible. You advocate a science-based approach to this topic, to the topic of inclusivity in the workplace. Can you tell me a little bit more about that distinction of being science-based versus the status quo, and why do we need a dose of science in this area of our lives?
I'll be a little bit of an equal opportunity offender, apologize in advance, but as designers, there's absolutely an art to what we do, and I love that art of it. But if that's all I'm leaning on is the art and what I think looks great, then it's my opinion versus yours. And for some of my clients who will come in and say, okay, this is what I like, it's like, you're not paying me to do what you like. That's why you have a house. Go do whatever you want at your house. You're paying me to do what works for your business, for your team, for your staff, for your image, for your brand. And as a designer, I truly believe that there is a science to what we do. Every decision I make impacts the people that are in that space. I can design a space that will make people want to stay for a long time. I can design a space that you want to leave in 5 minutes. I can make you want to sit someplace for a long time. I can make you, go a certain direction in a space, all by the way that we leverage our toolkit, which is the elements and the principles of design. And so we as designers really need to understand how the spaces we're designing are impacting people. And we don't have a lot of that research right now. So over the last 8 years, we have done multiple studies, multiple research initiatives, partnered with experts all around the world to really get a deeper understanding of what is impacting people, how that's impacting them, and how we should be designing space so people can be successful.
And so are you a scientist by trade?
Absolutely not.
So-
I am a designer.
Yeah.
Actually, one of my favorite compliments is when we're meeting with our clients and they'll say, what is your background? Like, are you a social scientist or like, a counselor? And it's like, no, but when you're designing with space, you really have to understand people and you have to understand the principles and all of these other things. And you have to be a little bit of a therapist and a change manager, all of those things rolled into one. So no, I'm a designer by training, and we will squarely say that we embrace the environmental side. Like that's what we're focusing on. There is a whole element about the operational side. There's a whole medical side. Those are not our areas of expertise. I got lots of people I know that are fabulous at that. I'll connect you with them. But our expertise is space, and that's really what we focus on.
As a designer by trade, getting into deep research about this subject matter.
Yeah, a little nerdy.
What was that like? Going, jumping into an 8-year research project on neurodiversity. That must have been an amazing experience.
Well, just think about this. The speed of which architects and designers do things and how quickly we do things and how fast everything moves in our world. And in the academic world, it's a very different pace. And we need to know multiple things at once. And they want to kind of focus in on certain areas. So it's been a balance. But I think when we bring different disciplines together to kind of push the boundaries forward, I think everybody really benefits from that.
So within the book, I think that you explore certain case studies, correct? Are there any insights or notable examples from those case studies that you think would be relevant when you're a building owner or a tenant or just a business manager or leader thinking about this subject? Like what anecdotes or insights really stand out from the book from your perspective?
I think that actually is one of the most powerful parts of the book, to hear from our clients why it mattered to them. Why do I care? Right. And, I can go on for, I can say that there's, 1 in 5 people is neurodivergent. I actually think it's higher than that. I can say that neurodiverse individuals are the canary in the coal mine. And if something's bothering them, it's probably bothering a lot of other people in your space. I can say that I don't know a single person on the planet that isn't impacted by sound, temperature, light, all of those things that are impacting us. But what might be annoying to someone that's neurotypical can be debilitating to someone that's neurodivergent. But what our clients will say is that this was pivotal to the success of their business. This was a sense of pride, a sense of welcoming, a sense of tapping into talent that they didn't necessarily have, that made them a better company and that made them, kind of go into new territories that they maybe didn't think that they could before. And how at the core of their business, if you're a pharmaceutical company or a consulting company or, whatever, and you care about people, then you need to understand that all the spaces that we're occupying are impacting us. And how do we help everyone thrive and really be successful? And so there's some really powerful stories about this. And they'll also say, this didn't take more time and it didn't cost more money. It costs just as much money to design stupidly as it does intelligently. In fact, I'm going to argue stupid design probably costs you more money in the long run.
Sure.
But let's just cut to the chase and design smart. And I think it's fascinating. Our teams now, once you know how to do something right, you can't go back and do it wrong again.
Right.
So it just is just embedded in our practice now about how we design every space that we touch, whether you're asking for it or not.
So things that initially were quite innovative or revolutionary have become baked into the way that you work.
You know what? I think it's actually really pretty simple. A lot of the principles are no-brainers, and they're kind of the usual suspects. Access to natural daylight, biophilia, things like that. Look, I think it's as basic as nowhere in nature is there a rectangular white box with strip lighting. Yet we repeatedly put people in those kind of spaces and wonder why they're not thriving, right? Yeah. And if a plant isn't thriving, you don't look at the plant and say, oh, the plant's a dud. Right? You think, is it the water? Is it the soil? Is it the sunlight? What in the environment is negatively impacting it so it's not thriving? And we need think the same way about people. If somebody isn't thriving, it's probably something in the environment or in the organizational structure that is not supporting them. And that's what really needs to change. And so I think we now are really leaning into some of those principles. And a lot of them are things we all know are annoying, but we're all just ignoring right now. So sound.
Right.
Temperature.
Right.
If you get too hot and you start getting irritated and you lose your focus, or somebody starts chatting or being really loud and you can't concentrate, and then you have to think, what was I thinking? All of those things are impacting every single one of us, our well-being, our mental health, our productivity, and it's costing companies money today.
Right. I was just thinking that as you were describing that the concept of something being irritating on a kind of individual level might sound trivial when you think about it on that level, but the collective impact on a business can be astronomical.
It is.
Right, if you're getting those things wrong consistently.
Right. And I think a lot of people will ask, well, what are the costs of the accommodations? And again, I don't think it costs any more to design intelligently than it does to design poorly. If you're trying to modify an existing space, most accommodations are less than, a lot of them are free or less than $300, a vast majority of them. And I think we're asking the wrong question, though. What is it costing you right now, to your point, to not address these things, and how many people are being negatively impacted? And I think we as individuals for so long have just felt like, I can't say anything about that. Yeah, that light's annoying me, or that sound is irritating, but we just suck it up because we don't think we have a choice, and we're given very little control or agency over our environments. And that is part of the problem.
You mentioned previously 1 in 5 people are neurodivergent in some way, potentially more. But neurodiversity is a broad church, right? It's not one thing. So when you're approaching this topic and thinking about choice and control, how do you start to accommodate neurodiversity as a category without kind of blurring out the differences and the nuances within that category? It must be challenging.
So you have to have a deep understanding, right? So in the research that we've done, we've been able to identify what are the triggers and how is that impacting people, and how is that impacting someone that's ADHD versus someone that's autistic. And there are some differences. There are differences between men and women. There are, which sounds obvious, but I mean, that actually is so fascinating when you really think about that and dive into that. There are differences in people that are hypersensitive. They actually are sensory avoiders. They can't handle too much sound or distractions or visual stimulation. They need, maybe calmer spaces. But on the other side of this, you have people that are hyposensitive. They actually need more. They need to move and to fidget. They need to listen to music. And we can accommodate and design spaces that accommodate both. But what we need to do is stop this notion that one size fits all. In fact, one size misfits all. I think that we have been caught up in how do we design so that everybody has the same thing, so we're fair, and we can easily roll this out. And in doing that, we basically have dumbed it down to a solution that doesn't really work for most people. And we need to understand that we're different. And there are nuances here. And so we need to have a deeper understanding about the organization, about the individuals, about the work that you're doing, et cetera. We kind of like the whole organizational DNA. And when we start to understand that, then the answers start to become a little bit more self-evident. And then we can create spaces where you might be able to go find a quiet space, but I'm buzzing today and I want to be right in the middle of everything, and I need music and kapow and all of that. And we should be able to design spaces that have a little bit of both.
There's something in business where physical space has a kind of consistent theme applied to it. It's almost an extension of the values of the business or the brand in some way. And so consistency becomes quite important to a business. So how do you kind of balance the tension between the urge to be consistent, as you say, to kind of provide fair and equal access, with also this need to acknowledge that there's a lot of diversity
who we are. So I'm going to say that who we are can vary. So your brand and the expression of who you are and your culture, we believe that space should be the physical embodiment of that. 10 years ago, if I were to walk into most spaces, I couldn't tell whether it was a pharmaceutical company or a tech company or a law firm. Like there was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. No matter how beautiful it might have been, it was just like, okay, I don't know what you do.
What do you do? Yeah.
Now, I think with this sense of, trying to attract people back to the offices, trying to have a sense of belonging, a shared culture, like what bonds us together, what do we all kind of believe in? Space is far more expressive about what is that physical culture and what does this company believe, which I think is great and it should be. But that doesn't mean that then the space itself has to be totally redundant or consistent. I think that, we can have flair and have some consistency around different offices. And many times it's, if I go into an office in Hong Kong, but then I go into the London office next week, I want them to still kind of feel like that this is our company. And you can do that without just dumbing them down to the lowest common denominator, because there are regional differences and, of course, differences with people. So we always say that you want some variety and some choices to really empower people, but those need to be very specifically attuned to the company culture, the work styles, the regional influences, all of those things should be a part of that. And I think part of the reason why people have been looking for consistency is if you're dealing with millions of square feet of space, like a lot of our big corporate clients are, you're trying to figure out, how do I roll this out effectively and efficiently as possible? But are you thinking about, what about the people that are going to occupy that space day 2, 3, 4, and 5? Is it been designed to be as effective for them? And I think sometimes the drive to roll it out quickly and easily is, we become too specific, and then it becomes too rigid.
Tell me about how receptive are people to these ideas now compared to 10 years ago?
I love that conversation. We have had a lot of very interesting conversations.
I'm sure.
A lot of our clients are like, "Yep, nope, we don't have anybody that's neurodiverse here in our 1,500 person, office. We're good." It's like, okay, well, we'll talk later.
Yeah.
I think there's a great misunderstanding about this, and 70% of disabilities are invisible, meaning it's not obvious. And only 4% of people that are neurodivergent right now disclose that in the workplace. And so there's a lot of things that people can misunderstand and misinterpret. Oh, he's not turning on his camera, he's being rude. Versus, well, maybe he's autistic and he gets overwhelmed with that direct eye contact. Or she always spells my name wrong, she's being rude. Versus, well, maybe they're dyslexic and it just have a mental block around this and they're not intentionally doing it. Or maybe they can't sit still in these long meetings because they're ADHD, or they process things differently. And so it's kind of this double empathy issue where we all assume everybody is just like us. And every single one of us has somebody that's driving us nuts right now, but we're driving them nuts too, right? Because we expect everybody to do everything like we do. And what we need to start understanding is that's not the case. And we need to meet people where they are and understand, how do you work best? Do you need to stand during meetings? Do you need shorter meetings? Do you need to visibly see it to be able to process it? Do you need to hear it, record it, whatever that is, so that we understand the behavior of other people that are different than us? And we're all different from each other, right? So a lot of our clients, though, they keep thinking, oh, you're talking about other people. And they're not necessarily realizing no. And so a few years ago, we changed the way we started to talk about this, and we changed it to be sensory processing, cognitive well-being, to optimize human performance so that all can thrive. Because every company right now is trying to figure out, how do I improve well-being, reduce burnout, increase productivity, all of those things. And all of those things have a root cause that is negatively impacting them with sensory stimulation. It's impacting all of us. And so I don't know a single company that wouldn't benefit from helping people be able to manage that assault that is coming at us every day.
And so in some ways, kind of disconnecting the conversation from where it started with neurodiversity, but it's actually a bigger it's about everybody, because the word diversity kind of gives it away.
Yeah.
It's about,
so we are all neurodiverse. We just aren't all neurodivergent.
right.
Right. So people that are neurodivergent tend to be much more impacted and might need more support in different conditions. But every single one of us is being impacted by this. And if we want people to thrive, we need to understand how. How are the spaces that I'm designing impacting the occupants so that we can really, truly help people thrive and be successful? There's a great the statement that somebody made. It was an autistic student, and he said to me one day, "We are freshwater fish in salt water. If you put us in fresh water, we're going to function just fine.
Right.
But if you put me in salt water, we're going to struggle to survive."
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, I killed a lot of fish as a kid. I do not intend to negatively impact people as a designer. But we have to own that if we believe the spaces we're designing have a positive impact, if we're not doing that well, it can have a negative impact. And for us, that's a non-starter.
So tell me about how big of an impact you think that the design component of this really makes to the whole issue.
Well, considering that you spend 90% of your time indoors, I think it has a huge impact. And one of my favorite stories is somebody recently said, I read the book and I started to think, I think my kids are neurodivergent, but we've never had them tested. So he went about getting them tested, which in some countries right now is very difficult and huge wait. But in the same time, he said, I'm going to apply some of these suggestions to the house. And he changed some of the colors. He decluttered the house. He made it a little bit adjusted some of the lighting levels, did some things in the house just to change it. And he said lo and behold, they did find that their children were neurodivergent. They found out that his wife was too, and that the changes that they had made in the built environment had a significant impact on their family. The kids were calmer and could adjust better. That meant his wife was calmer. That meant he was calmer, right? So I think it does have a big impact on us. But we always say this is a three-legged stool. There is absolutely an operational side to this, how you're onboarding, training, preparing people for the spaces so that they can be successful. But if you do that and you put them in an environment that they're going to struggle to survive, you're setting them up for failure. And so we need to address the built environment. And then that third leg of that stool is what might work for you may not work for me. So I might need headphones and you might need closed captions and somebody else might need a recording, right? So those little adjustments or tweaks that we can make that are more individually focused to help people thrive.
And when a company gets this right, there are effects on the individual, but then there are ripple effects as that positive impact kind of radiates through the business. To hear you describe it. So.
Yeah. One of our clients said that they've had a 10% increase in people coming to the office. And when we were there one day, a gentleman came up to us and he said, "Oh, are you guys the designers of the space?" And you never really know how you want to answer that question, but we said, "Yeah, yes, we are." And he shared with my colleague, he said, "I've worked for this company for 10 years. I've never been able to come to the office because the lighting and the sound masking and all of those things have just physically been a challenge for me." And he goes, "This is the first office I've ever been able to come to that I don't get physically ill being in the space. And I've been able to connect with people and feel like I'm a part of something that I've just never really experienced. So thank you." And that's why we do what we do. So, those are just those great moments. And then just the pride that they have. And just everybody's heightened awareness, people being able to function better. It has a positive impact for everybody, which is great.
How can inclusive design go beyond being a matter of kind of simple compliance and become something that empowers the workforce, empowers the people in the business, and helps the business, drives value for it too?
The more knowledge we have about this, the better. And I think actually most of us have suppressed and masked what those things are that are annoying us for so long that we don't even really have a good understanding of our own sensitivity triggers. Like if you and I were to go to a restaurant and I were to say, "Do you have any preference about where we sit?" Most people would be like, "Yeah, I'll sit anywhere. I'm good. But the second you start walking into that restaurant, almost everybody is like, nope, I'm not going to sit over there. Nope, I want to sit there.
Yeah.
You don't even know why.
Yeah.
Right? We just instinctively do. And so if we can tie into those instincts, have a little bit more knowledge, and have spaces that give us some agency to have some choice, we will navigate and find those spaces. And I think that can be very empowering for people. And your likelihood of being successful goes way up versus me saying, oh, you're new. Welcome. This is a desk that's open. You sit here.
Yes.
Forget the fact that it's right next to a conference room with lots of noise and people walking by. So you've got visual distractions and your back is totally open to everybody. So you feel totally exposed. And all of those are triggers for you. If I sit you there, your ability to be successful has just plummeted without you even starting your day. And so it's really about helping people be more successful.
I wonder if there are things, kind of common areas that you see are frequently overlooked, that you encounter time and time again, that would be quick wins, easy things to address, but you just see them kind of not being noticed for whatever reason.
Yeah, so access to natural daylight is huge. And some people, by the way, want to be away because they can't handle too much bright light. And it's also a temperature thing, right? If you're too close to the windows, it could be hotter and warmer. Some people might love that, other people may not. Access to biophilia and spaces that just feel a little bit more welcoming. Having clear zones where this is where we're doing things together, this is where we're doing things alone, right? And kind of respecting those spaces. Conference rooms that have the ability to stand and move, and maybe even have a backspace so that if I'm not comfortable sitting at the table, I want to hear what you're saying, but I get a little overwhelmed with, people being so close to me. Maybe I just want to sit here and have a little bit more comfort. So there's so many things that we can do that are easy. And we list all of these. We talk about the top 13, which look, we have a list of 161 things. We picked the top 40 that we thought were all great strategies, but these are probably the things that are going to be the most impactful. The same 13 things kept coming to the top of the list, and several of them are low-hanging fruit, but the usual suspects, right? But things like access to, not having a lot of visual clutter in spaces is really important, or just some people really need screening and other people don't necessarily want that. So it was really fascinating doing all the research and some of the things that we found that we all share in the book.
Tell me about your hopes for the future and where next for this area.
Yeah, I think where next is we're still doing some more research. We're talking about how to implement this and to include more people in the process and in the design process. So there's this whole notion of nothing about us without us, to hear kind of from individuals so that they have a say in some of this, to blend our expertise, because sometimes people don't even know what to ask for because they don't even know it's an option, right? And so we can come in and say, well, we could do this, et cetera, to come to better solutions. And then again, really applying this more comprehensively in all the other spaces that we are designing. When we talk about behavioral health, talk about healthcare, hospitality, all of those spaces, taking these principles and embedding them and building out some of that research that we've done so that we can continue to drive to more purposeful spaces.
Kay, you mentioned earlier that there are differences in the way that all of us are kind of wired, the way we respond to stimuli, the way we interact with our environment. Something you mentioned was about the difference between men and women. So I think that's a very interesting thread to pull out. Tell me more about the
Mars versus Venus, I think.
Absolutely.
This is probably not going to be a shock to most women out there. But, actually, it was really interesting to us. There are significant differences. Men are far less likely to have a hyper response to some of the stimulation and far more likely to kind of be neutral about it. So whether it's a sound or a temperature or whatever, it doesn't bother me. What are you talking about? I don't get it. And our research showed that women are 5 times as likely to have a hypersensitive response, and non-binary individuals are 6 times as likely to have a hyper response to something versus men.
Yeah.
Even though, like 56% of almost all will have a sensitivity, a heightened sensitivity, but how severe that is far lower in men and far more significant in women and non-binary individuals.
Fascinating. Do you have a thesis of what might be behind that?
There's a lot of discussions. Most of the research has been done on adolescent boys.
Yeah.
In fact, even the temperatures and the built environment, it's all done. Everything is based on, young men. And I have 5 kids, 3 sons. Love them to death. I don't think we should base anything on adolescent boys or teenage boys. But women have been really underrepresented in that and historically marginalized individuals as well. So we have far less understanding, and we're starting to do more research about that.
Yeah.
But also just, body size. Men tend to be a little bit larger maybe, and so they might have a different temperature threshold. It can be clothing. It can be a whole variety of things. Women's hands tend to be a little bit more petite, so they might get colder a little bit, or they might be more sensitive to touch. So there's lots of speculation about why, but trying to dig into that a little bit more is really important.
It's such a complex and nuanced area.
Yes,
There's just layer after layer of cause and effect going on.
There is. And, I think, again, we all have to start from this position that just because it doesn't bother me, doesn't mean that you saying something is bothering you isn't legitimate.
Right.
My son came to the house. He's, very sensitive to certain things. And he swore there was a cricket in the house. I didn't hear anything. And he went on a 1-hour cricket hunt because he was going to find this cricket because it was driving him nuts, right? Yeah. And so whether it's lighting or some people have real sensitivities to sound masking, about 10% of the population, that buzzing or that humming of that sound masking system can really be an irritant. So we need to make sure, again, that when we're designing solutions, we take all of that into consideration. Sound masking is one of those things people say, okay, put it across the whole space.
Right.
But we don't want every space to be the same. We want some spaces to be loud, we want some spaces to be quiet, and we want some to have no sound masking for people that just can't handle those spaces.
So if someone in our audience who's listening or watching today is inspired to dig deeper into this area, how can they get hold of the book? What resources are available to them? Like, what should they do next?
Yeah, so HOK.com.
Yeah.
I will say one of the things I'm really proud of is this firm made a decision early on that this was not about a competitive advantage. This was about a moral imperative that we as our industry have to really create better spaces. And so we have shared all of the research that we have done, even stuff that didn't get into the book, we have put out on our website. So if you go to the website, you look up neurodiversity or thought leadership, you're going to find a ton of it there.
Wonderful.
The book is available on almost any online sellers.
Yeah.
Designing Neuro-Inclusive Workplaces.
Yeah.
And if you follow me on LinkedIn, Kay Sargent, on LinkedIn, we post pretty frequently about this because we are on a mission to educate and to share this with as many people as we can. And I'm really proud of the firm for taking that stance because in our industry, we don't always share.
No, of course.
Right. And we need to do that. We need to put it out there. And the firm has made the decision that that's important.
That's inspiring stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
Kay, I've been asking the guests on this podcast 3 quick fire questions. It's just like a simple way of getting to know them a little bit better. And they're related to commercial real estate.
Is it graded? Is it quizzed?
There's no right or wrong answer. Okay. So don't worry, you can relax. The first question is, what's your favorite city or your favorite built place on the planet in the world?
That's so easy. Westminster Abbey.
Westminster Abbey. Yeah. Wow.
When I walk into Westminster Abbey, the history in that building is just mind-blowing. It's like you are transcended through time. I mean, Henry VIII, Mary Queen of Scots. I mean, just all the people that have been in that building and all the people that are buried there and all the history. It's just, and just the building itself, even without that, but just all that together is really phenomenal. So that's my favorite place.
My second question is why do you like that place so much, which you just described, but what is it that makes it so special? What keeps you kind of going back to that place?
Yeah, I'm a huge history buff. And, I mean, you're British, right? I live on the property that was owned by George Washington. In fact, if you walk out my back door, half a mile through the woods, you're at Mount Vernon. I am the closest house to him.
Wow.
And that's about as far back as our history goes. I mean, indigenous individuals go far back, but when we think about the buildings and things that are here today, so when I go to spaces and places that have been on the planet, we were talking earlier. I just came back from a manor house in the north of London that had 1,000 years old. I mean, that's just the stuff that has happened there. It's just phenomenal when you think I am literally standing in the place where X, Y, and Z, this happened or that happened. I love that.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Well, Britain certainly does major in history.
You do that pretty well.
Yeah, we have plenty of it.
I'll give that to you.
Yeah. Well, the final question along these lines, this might be quite a difficult question to answer, actually. Thinking about Westminster Abbey, what would you do to improve it? If there was anything you could do to improve that building, improve that space?
I just keep it going, protect it, preserve it, keep it going, and keep building that rich history. And I love the fact the last time I was there, they had a whole exhibit in kind of the atrium or the top area, the attic almost, about just some of the history and some of the things. And I love that. It was fascinating just how they built it over time and et cetera. So, of course, being in our profession as well, anything that shares just about how things have evolved over time and just the manpower. I mean, and the attention to detail, it's exquisite. It's just fascinating. So preserve it, celebrate it, and make it as accessible to as many people as possible.
Wonderful. Well, Kay, thank you so much for your time today, for inviting us into your office and for sharing all of your amazing insights and your experience in this fascinating area. It's been an education and a really interesting conversation.
Well, thank you for coming in. I'm usually not here that often, so I'm glad, our schedules align because I travel all the time. But thank you for coming in and inviting me on the show.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Again, a big thank you to Kay Sargent, the Director of Thought Leadership here at HOK. And thank you to you for joining us for another episode of the In the Loop podcast, brought to you by LoopNet. Thanks very much for your time and attention, and we hope to see you again very soon. We don't want you to miss an episode, so don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow In the Loop on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you listen to your podcasts. And while you're there, leave us a review and a rating, and don't forget to recommend the show to a fellow commercial real estate geek.